Expectations for tonight's Harris-Trump matchup. Here's what to expect at the candidates' only debate on Tuesday night. Vice President Kamala Harris's most crucial political debate is Tuesday night. It will provide her widest audience as the nation learns about her presidential qualities. Former President Donald J. Trump hopes to end a rough summer in the debate. Since replacing President Biden as Democratic Party nominee, Ms. Harris has tightened the polling deficit. Tuesday may be Mr. Trump's best chance to reverse momentum before early voting. Aides and friends want Ms. Harris to provoke the former president into incomprehensible remarks. The Trump team wants him to focus on the economy, immigration, and global instability, their winning areas. Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump have no additional debates scheduled, making the face-off one of the most important 90 minutes in American politics in years. Watch out for: can Trump control himself? The first debate in 2020, when a sweating, COVID-addled Mr. Trump rants over Joseph R. Biden Jr., turns off so many voters that his polling drops, is well remembered by his advisors. Trump has privately admitted to failing in that discussion, according to advisors. Still, Trump advisors worry he won't be able to suppress his hatred for Ms. Harris. Last time Trump debated a woman was 2016 competitor Hillary Clinton. Despite calling her a nasty woman and stalking behind her on stage, his advisors said he remained calm for Mr. Trump. Aides to Ms. Harris want the 2020 Trump to emerge Tuesday night. Will muted mics muffle debate? Ms. Harris's aides failed to tweak the debate rules to keep candidates' microphones on when they're not speaking to get Mr. Trump to interrupt when it wasn't his turn. Advisors say Mr. Trump despises Ms. Harris more privately than publicly. He joked about her personal connections and erroneously accused Ms. Harris of adopting her black identity for politics. Many think Mr. Trump won't be able to resist personal assaults at the debate, despite his advisors' and allies' advice. How will Harris handle Trump's surprises? Ms. Harris's 2019 primary debate performance was lowest when Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard demanded she apologize for her record as a California prosecutor, a moment her campaign had prepared her for but that she struggled to reply to. Since then, Ms. Harris has been effective at set-piece attacks on Mr. Trump but less so in unscripted moments. Since becoming vice president, she has improved as a political performer, although she still struggles in interviews and off-the-cuff moments. Debating Trump is different from answering questions from a TV anchor. Mr. Trump is a volatile TV personality who disregards political fair play. Ms. Harris hasn't responded to Mr. Trump's below-the-belt assaults or race and gender slurs. She famously exclaimed, "If you've got something to say it to my face," when asking him to argue on live TV, which may affect her performance. After replacing Mr. Biden, Ms. Harris has framed her candidacy as a choice between the future and the past. The debate may allow her to show voters the contrast and how she reacts to a bully. Who goes viral? More than 50 million Americans watched the June debate between President Biden and Mr. Trump live, and Tuesday's debate should bring even more. Tens of millions more will watch news and social media following the event. Those viewers won't watch the full 90 minutes, but they'll see critical chunks, including argument moments. These are easy to recall from debates. Reagan told Walter Mondale in 1984, "I am not going to use for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience." Or 4 years ago, when Mr. Biden asked, "Will you stop up, man?" to Mr. Trump's interruptions. Of course, some crucial periods hurt candidates. Bush checked his watch during a 1992 debate with Bill Clinton, appearing bored. A 2000 debate with George W. Bush mocked Al Gore's size. Mitt Romney's 2012 claim that he had received binders full of women to examine triggered Twitter outrage and criticism from President Barack Obama's campaign. Will Trump link Harris-Biden? The Trump team has one debate goal. They want viewers to believe Ms. Harris is accountable for every negative aspect of Mr. Biden's record by night's end. Trump's aides want Americans to associate Hillary with high grocery store prices, the Ukraine and Middle East wars, and undocumented migrants crossing the border. Mr. Trump often exaggerates his blame on the Biden administration and Ms. Harris for the migrant influx. Expect Ms. Harris to blame Mr. Trump for forcing Republicans to oppose immigration and border security legislation. Will Harris break with Biden? Ms. Harris must be loyal to Mr. Biden while still separating herself from him. Battleground state undecided voters are disproportionately gloomy about the economy and the country and want change. Both candidates' advisors know voters must equate them with change. Harris's Roe v. Wade attack on Trump. How? Mr. Trump regards abortion as his greatest electoral weakness, so Ms. Harris will undoubtedly attack it. The vice president has reminded people for weeks that Mr. Trump changed the Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade. She published a weekend commercial featuring Mr. Trump saying, "Years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated and I accomplished it, and I'm glad to having done it." She may also mention that Mr. Trump once considered punishing abortionists, which he later recanted. Trump will suggest he wants to leave abortion policy to the states to cast doubt on the subject. He may emphasize his support for in vitro fertilization, which he disagreed with certain abortion opponents. How will they discuss the economy? Mr. Trump plans to criticize Ms. Harris for the high pricing left over from the early Biden administration and remind Americans of life before the COVID-19 outbreak. He will likely bring up Ms. Harris's more liberal policy ideas from her first presidential campaign in 2019, particularly her proposal to stop fracking, a contentious subject in Pennsylvania, a swing state. Ms. Harris will likely remind voters of the mess the country was in when Mr. Trump gave power to her and Mr. Biden, with the economy still partially shut down due to the pandemic and millions more Americans collecting unemployment checks. Based on her recent public comments, she will acknowledge that prices are still too high and explain her cost of living recommendations. Where will race and gender fit? One of many white men running for president, Mr. Trump wants to return to the White House. Harris seeking to become the first woman and second person of color in office. Ms. Harris has avoided emphasizing her historic candidacy, unlike Mrs. Clinton in 2016, especially after Mr. Trump erroneously accused her of misrepresenting her race. As a black and South Asian woman confronting a white guy, voters' views of her responses to Mr. Trump's assaults will shape how Americans watch the debate.